Jo, no do keni.
Aha, do të thënë drafti I parë do vlerësohet edhe me notë, si mund të thosh.
Po. Do
Aha,
vështirë.
okay, kuptoj.
Ajo, minus që tani e ke parasysh kjo kanë element që ndikojnë pozitivisht për sa i përket motivimit, nëse mund të quhet motivimi si fillim.
Po në draftin e parë s'është e nevojshme të jetë bë kështu tamam e plot gjithë projekte apo ja?
Jo. Draftin e parë, shikoj tani them diçka të tillë. Drafti I parë duhet të ketë plotësuar fazën e parë. Tani çfarë do të themi se mund ta mendojmë kështu. Drafti I parë ka dy versione. Drafti I parë mund të ketë 10% ose po e them kot, për shembull 30% nga të gjitha fazat e ndryshme. Ku faza e parë mund të jetë përgatitja bibliografisë, që do të thotë të gjesh ato referencat më të rëndësishme, ti identifikosh sa më shpejt që të jetë mundur, më të rëndësishme për fushën tënde. Dhe kjo është një proces I cili është mirë të mbaroj gati 90% e procesit të përgatitjes së bibliografisë duhet të jetë gati. So 90% should be ready, because later on you can always find out some good paper that just came out, or maybe in a journal which was a good journal, but you never thought that a respected author would publish it there. So let's say the first phase is bibliography. 90% of it should be ready. Okay. The second phase is literature review. Let's say somewhat like I don't know, literature review around 60 to 70% should be reported in the first draft. And then when it comes to the rest, this might take a little longer. Okay. So this is a better approach to have ready, not 100%, but something between 80 to 90% ready by the first draft for the first stages. We should not consider this one like if this is the first draft, we should do 50% of the abstract writing, 50% of the literature review, 50% of the bibliography preparation, 50% of results. Not like this, but the same way that we go with putting something together. This is how we should be about it. Okay, so let's consider the major references, bibliography, and something like, let's say, around 70% of the literature review, it should be ready. Okay, but we are going to discuss also together for more details. Now,
Profesor, edhe I pyetjet fundit kisha, se ju kam çuar email, po më duket se keni pa. Në Word do ta dorëzojmë këtë neve? Draftin e parë?
Në Word, po, në Word.
Aha, okay. Lego, faleminderit.
Do ta dorëzojmë në Word, asgjë. Pastaj alertin e kemi diskutuar edhe këtë pjesën, kështu që këto e kemi diskutuar të në Word, mund ta bëjmë me referenca sipas formatit etj, duke përdorur Mendeley, pasi na edukon atë bukurinë e gjithë peprit në tërësi.
Po nga që për Mendeleyin e kisha më shumë, nga që në Word me sa kanë vënë re përdoret edhe. Nga që kemi mësuar tamam me përdor aty në Word edhe. Jo, të tjerët nuk e dia, mund ta përdorim dot ajo.
Ajo është aty, tani mund të, si thon asaj, normalisht mirë që të fillojmë të mësohemi përveç Wordit, të kemi pak parasysh edhe si përdoret për shembull LaTeX-u. Dhe edhe aty ne bëm një review ose diskutuam shkurt te kjo klasa jonë në lidhje me LaTeX-un. Shpresoj që edhe ju ndoshta po të fokusoheni pak, e mësoni pak më shumë, nëse keni një vështirësi, mund ta konsultojmë gjithmonë, por këto janë elemente të cilat edhe po t'i kërkoni në libraritë e LaTeX-ut ose qoftë edhe në forumet se si përdoren këto lloj softwaresh ose këto lloj paketash, mund ta mësoni. Pra, ne kemi diskutuar, shpresojmë që kur keni mundësi, shumë gjëra t'i shkruani edhe në LaTeX, po drafti I parë në Word. Dakor. Kush ka dëshirë ta dorëzojë në LaTeX, edhe ajo është e mundur, dakor? Edhe ajo është e mundur, pra është pjesa kështu. It's not compulsory të jetë në Word. Unë po shikoja pak këto që keni disa nga detyrat që keni dorëzuar këtu te kjo long version advanced paper review, which was a longer version. Një gjë që mund të vlerësoj shumë është për shembull, ose që mund të vlerësohet shumë, jo vetëm për meje, por nga shumë, do të ishte përfshirja e ekuacioneve në këto detyra që keni dorëzuar. Unë shikoj për shembull që te detyra e parë, ose për shembull sipas alfabetit, në fakt, ti alerti e ke dorëzuar në rregull, keywords-et I ke përfshirë aty, janë përmendur elemente të kyç dhe aty në fakt mund të shtojë edhe I pjesë conclusion, do të thonë what the paper has achieved, se për lexoj diku te kompjuter tjetër në alerti. Ekuacione nuk ka mund të duhet në fakt, se shikon, ne jemi we are in electronics engineering, and it is very hard to find a quality work which has no equation. But please, at this stage, even when you submit an assignment, which is simply an assignment, edhe sa për të duk, even just for show off, include the equations, okay? So we should get used to including the equations, even if it is a small assignment. You might get another assignment from other courses in your Master of Science study program, okay? Please include equations when you report your results, or when you, let's say, when you do the analysis of the performance of some methods that you have used, of something that you have achieved, measured, etc. So include equations as much as possible, okay? Nobody can say that we have included too many of these, okay? And one thing that is also useful regarding the figures, what I can suggest is that often few students that I've seen, what they do is that they have 7 figures of the same type, okay? So they measure the same thing, changing just some small parameters, and they put figure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these figures, they are spread over 2 or 3 pages. So if you want to compare these figures, you cannot, because you have to open the second page, it's on the back side, and you look at it, and then you have to figure out how to compare those. What is good is that if you have many figures, because we discussed about equations, but now figures, I'm looking at the figures that some of you have submitted in your first draft. The figures, if they are of the same nature, if they are acquired, the figures, or if they are prepared for similar situations, it is a very good idea to include all of them in one page, okay? Put them next to each other. So if there is anything to compare based only on human perception, if it is an image, right? So let's say some, or if it is a graph, which have also the graph is x-axis and y-axis, people can also try to compare these outputs or this data looking at just one picture. Okay, so they can even make a conclusion much easier. And another important thing is that when you report a few figures or a lot of figures in one page or in a half of a page, it is good to keep the x-axis and the y-axis at the same range, okay? Because it might be that you are taking, let's say, you have a graph which is changing from 0 to 10, and the graph looks like this. Okay, I'm going to show you what I mean. And you can have another graph which is changing from 1 to 2, and you show it also like this. So if you have a look at these two graphs, from 0 to 10, there is a scale, from 0 to 2 is another scale. It's not good to do it like this. A better technique would be, I don't have a whiteboard here, a better technique would be the following. You plot both graphs on a scale 0 to 10, 0 to 10, and then you're going to compare the first graph, which is in red color, with the second graph, which is in black, sorry, in blue, whatever it is. Okay, so a lot of similar figures, you can put them together just in one page or 2 pages in terms of importance of how a reader can acquire information. I was looking at Albert's submission. It has equation that is good. It has a lot of equation. Keywords are there, and the conclusion is also included, which is also good. The figures don't have. Okay, so it looks like one figure. The caption is shifted to another column. That's strange. Wait a second. That's strange, Albert. Why? Don't worry too much, okay? But I would expect later to have the figure captions together. So if the figure is at the end of the page, it does something. It shifts it around for the sake of keeping the figure and the figure caption together. But I see that it's a little shifted. I don't know why this happens. But I would expect this slightly different. Then we have the work of Andy.
I don't know, Professor. I tried it. The paper that I submitted, I did it with LaTeX.
Yes.
And I found it a little bit difficult to arrange the photos.
Okay. Yeah.
They are a little shifted or not center.
No, there was one figure, Albert, that at the figure itself is at the bottom of the page, and the figure caption, it's at the other column. Traditionally, keeping them together.
I don't know. I wanted to ask you about that, how to do it in LaTeX, because Even the figures, it was very difficult to add them to the paper for me. No, I
Ah, okay. Well, I believe, how can I say, the figures, I think you have to copy it into your LaTeX editor. So you have to have a folder where you can read them. Did you use Overleaf or what?
Yes, I used overleaf, but I don't know was it has to do about the image pixel or the type of image.
Uh-huh.
Uh, for
Okay.
example, if you take a photo from the phone and upload it, it doesn't recognize it. It wanted specific photos.
Okay, maybe the format it's critical.
Yeah, format.
Actually, what is interesting regarding the photos, because a lot of things can happen when you submit something using Word or LaTeX. What is strange is that it could happen, it has happened to a few times, that when you submit something, it is always best to submit in LaTeX. Okay, that's fine. You submit it over there, but there are some very prestigious places or conferences that they have an automatic robot which controls whether the paper looks good. And these robots, it's software which is written on a web application where people upload it over there. And the moment you upload it, it counts the page number and few details of the paper, and it prints them right away the moment that you upload them. Okay. And then what is strange is that I mean, it's also odd, is that sometimes these web applications that you want to submit something very soon, these are written like 10 years ago. So if they are written 10 years ago, I have examples I can tell you. What happens is that sometimes LaTeX has some new packages, and the robot which was written 10 years ago does not compile the file automatically. So you have it in your computer, you compile it correctly, you have no error, because the compilation to provide the PDF file, even when there are some errors which are shown in red color at the LaTeX editor, even when there are some errors, you can often get the PDF. You can extract the PDF and it is going to look good. You can submit it. But sometimes the journals, they don't ask only the PDF that you extracted from the LaTeX. They don't ask only the PDF, but they ask the whole zip file of the LaTeX file, which includes the images, the references, the bibliography. Even Overleaf has this option. So you upload everything over there, and there is this option of download. You download everything as a zip file, and even these automatic document receiving robots, which are written, this is how they call it, robots. I don't find it the best word possible. They call it automatic robots on websites, so don't make fun of me for saying this. But they read these zip files and they try to compile them automatically, but sometimes it's impossible to do that. Another issue is that sometimes some publishing houses or publishing agencies, they don't like, for example, the images in PDF format. Personally, I've noticed that it is often a very good quality and also having very low the size of the image. It won't be very large. PDF is a good, so you have a graph drawing technique, you can save it as a PDF. But there are few publishing houses that you upload your zip file with the LaTeX and all the images in there, and nobody knows why it's not compiling. Okay, then you come across it, you spend weeks on it, and you should always get a report from the person where you submit saying, please, did you compile it? Was everything okay? And they keep saying, no, 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 nobody can notice it. Then some good-hearted person might say, oh, what are your images? You say it's PDF. They say, oh, okay, we don't accept PDF images. That's how our format is working. Please make them TIFF, PNG, or something else. Okay. So, so that's one thing. We have to be careful. Another thing regarding the images, what I can say, because you're going to submit those, is that often they require the images or the figures at least like 300 dpi, dot per inch. So per 1 inch, they expect 300 different quantization levels. Sometimes they even ask for 600 dpi, but 300 is like a minimum. So always try to keep your images. But one thing I don't know is that I don't know, I mean, it's a little challenging from one page to another. It changes. If you see the image as a vector format like PNG, then you don't get DPIs at all. So I'm not sure actually how all of the journals do about it, because it's a vector image or vector figure. It does not have DPI at all, because you can zoom in as much as possible. You can always have the same resolution. So often many people, what they do is that they try to keep it in TIFF or JPEG, and try to have it as high resolution as possible by adjusting the DPIs in the properties. So these are some small tricks that you should always keep in mind. But I mean, having high quality figures, it is very essential. And graphs are very important. It's a very challenge how to draw a beautiful graph, which is self-explanatory. Personally, many people might think similar to me. Many people might argue that graphs drawn from Excel look very bad, unless you are a very good Excel user. Okay, so Excel is a very common used package of Microsoft, and it's used by everyone. But currently, you can find machine learning or artificial intelligence algorithms which are implemented in Excel. Okay, so it's not that simple as we think it is. It's not just that it's a data sheet to keep data and to calculate averages and to draw simple graphs. It is being advanced. So if it's doing machine learning or artificial intelligence on Excel, most probably somebody is very skilled into producing high quality figures using Excel. Not many people can do that. I cannot do that. So for this reason, learning also how to use a good graph drawing package is very essential. A couple that I can suggest is Igor. I'm writing here in the comment section, Igor. Another one is Origin. It's really good. Another one is Kalei da Graph. It's a very strange. I've used all of these: Igor, Origin, Kalei da Graph. The one which gives the hardest time is Kalei da Graph. It's very strange. It's very odd. But anyway, many people use it. Igor, it's almost the best. It's like a programming language, so you can do curve fitting and a lot of things with it. Most probably, Origin does the same because it's also a very good one. I cannot say very good words about Kalei da Graph because maybe I don't know how to use it, but it's very tough. So the way that how you save the data, I mean, if you have one thing shifted if the number of rows is not the same in two columns, it will never plot it. You have to make up data points which are stupid just because you have one missing data, whatever. So, but it is very essential to learn one of these. Okay, so purchase one of these products and try to use them, get used to those, because one day you'll need to draw a very high quality graph, and if you use any one of these, it will really look good. Especially if you are collaborating with other colleagues from your university or some other universities. If you submit to a common work or to a common effort a graph which is really good looking, people will be very thankful to you. So just go and learn one, use one of those, and because you are going to need it one day. Okay. So this is regarding the LaTeX format, figures, how you enter them, and it takes a little practice when it comes to producing or having a good figure on LaTeX. Sometimes you might need to have figures which extend over 2 columns. If the paper is double columns, 2 columns, you might have this is also possible. And LaTeX does a good job into finding where it should stand, for sure. So you can also consider these tricks or at least technique. So yeah, then I can have a look. Meanwhile, as we're discussing these, also having a look at whatever you have submitted in the previous work. And what I can add also, I see that we have one submission by one of all the friends here in the class, which is relatively short. Okay, that's what I see here, and because I see major aspects, it's like 1 page, and these things that you submit, it's always a good trick to submit something which is font 14 or font 16. It will fill 3 pages, but it doesn't look good. Okay, so stick with font 11 or 12, but don't submit anything which is like font 16 in a Word document. If it is a PowerPoint, things might change. You can have a larger font for sure. I see a submission which is purely on PowerPoint with not. Then let's see another submission here, which is single pixel imaging. We have the title, that's good, complex single pixel imaging. I see equations, the equations. I see sometimes some equations which are copy-pasted from another document, from a PDF. They look bad. It's always good to write the equations with, if it is Microsoft, they have the equation package. I've heard that Microsoft equation writing tool or toolbox, it's getting better. So try to use that. Don't copy paste images because they really look bad. Okay, so you should not go now to your master thesis, write your master thesis, and your supervisor telling you still all your equations are copy pasted. They will look bad. Try to write your own. Okay, if it is a PDF that you crop it and you carry it on a Word document, if you zoom in, it will really look bad. It's not always the best quality. Okay, here we have one submission which has a lot of references, which is good. There is no conclusion, so we should add is good read conclusions. But images, I think we talked about this one. Here we see another submission in PDF format. It looks better. Principles, step 1, step 4, so okay. Here we have figures, discussion, references. Okay. Then I have another submission which is in the Word document. Okay. No equation. I strongly suggest to always include equations and try to include equations that look tough. Okay. Don't try something simple. Try something which looks like challenging. Of course, these equations you can get them. They can be as simple, not as simple, but as common as textbook knowledge equations, or they could be even more complex. What is it? Focus on. Okay. Okay. Still another submission with very little equations or none. Okay. That's good. I'm reading a submission which includes in detail the hardware that is used. I mean, this is relatively important because you are in electronics engineering, and if there is a paper which has an experimental part that has used some hardware, I mean, you should understand, not understand. I mean, at first you should list them. You should have a good look at those, what those are. You should also understand. Sometimes they use the terminology that you are not very common. It's fine, but go after it and try to track it down. I mean, you are still Master of Science study program. Okay, you are not. You are just came out from bachelor study program. For sure, you know a lot. You know, you are used to a lot of terminology, but it's not. You should not be ashamed saying that I don't know what it is. Okay, even even you can ask to the others, what are you talking about? What is this product? You should ask about this one when somebody is presenting something in a conference or in a presentation. So it's not a shame asking this type of question. And you can even ask, okay, so here I have a submission which is relatively voluminous. It's a high volume of submitted work. This is the last one. Okay, so this is the, let's see. These are the submissions that you have. So I asked to someone, so actually I can pick up the next one in line. Alberti, per referenza in your project or in your topic, how many references have you listed? I'm just asking. Or have you listed few or many or none?
Professor, I found a lot of references regarding my paper, but I'm reading the paper now. I haven't finished it. I haven't write something in.
Okay, but Albert, I always suggest that these papers, actually, to understand whether the paper is a good one, it's always good to search them on Google Scholar. And one good indication is the paper that has many citations. Okay, so if many people are using it as a reference in their own work, that means that it's a relatively good one. Okay, so it's a good paper, so you can go after it because yeah. And
Professor, how many references you suggest to use?
well, I mean, for the project, it's hard to say. No, it's not very hard. It depends. If the area is very new, so let's say if the topic is new, which means that there are very few papers about it. So it happens that sometimes some new research direction opens up, and you might find maximum 5 papers if it's something has happened in the last year. Okay, in the last 2 years you might find like only 10 papers, and you can pick half of those. But let's assume that we are covering a traditional topic or a general, so to say, established topic. I would say 20 references. Please include those. Okay, at least 20. And what is a little tricky is to include the references. So this can also become a habit. Try to include the references from your collaborators. Okay, so you have collaborators, you have colleagues that you are, or friends that are working on similar topics on another university, and or in the same university in a different department, or the friend of your class but working with a different professor on a different topic. If the topics overlap, or if there is some commonality, it's really a good thing to go after or to cite or to use the papers of your collaborators for sure. Okay, so one thing about this is that it might happen that your friends or your colleagues never publish something on that topic. It's fine. Okay, we're not saying that use something, but it could be that they have a publication on that area, and it's always good to cite those because you always have the possibility to ask them details which are not clear in the paper, right? So you can also check this one, which also could include looking for affiliation publications using having the affiliation of your own university, of your own department, or other colleagues that you have can find around. And now, what is also interesting is that today I was reading in a paper that because I want to relate this one with the citations, because citation is an important aspect, which is an indication that people are reading your work. Now, at this stage that you are, or many people could be, is the following: if the paper is published, it's good. Okay, so at least it's published. It is accepted if it is peer review. Okay, if it has been reviewed by specialists in the field. But so if it is published, that's the first thing. Then whether it has citation, it is the second thing, but it's also very important. And one thing I can add here, what I read today about the citation, it was the fact that according to one study held by some, I forget the name of the first author of the study, it was found that papers that go through many rounds of review get much more citations. Okay, that was strange. And the rounds of review, it is defined like this. So you submit a paper somewhere, the reviewers read it, and they have some comments. They send it back to you, they don't accept it right away. You fix whatever they suggest, and then you submit it back to them. You might get a second round of review. They say, okay, you improve these aspects, but you need to improve also these. They can add some more, okay? Then you submit it again. Then the reviewers might come with a third round saying, okay, fix this too. Now, having many rounds of review, it might look like bad, okay? Because if the reviewers looked at the paper the first time, imagine this. They tell you have to fix 4 things. They give you 4 aspects that you need to improve. Okay, fine. You improve this 4 and you submit it again. So why could it be a second round or a third round of review, most probably from the same reviewers? I mean, this is a tough question. Because, I mean, that means that one possibility is that they told you to fix 4 things and you didn't fix them and you submitted it again. That doesn't look good, okay? So sometimes what happens is that you submit a paper, they ask you to fix 4 things, you fix those 4, you submit it, and those reviewers come up with 5 new things, okay, which were there in the first draft. They could have also listed those 5 new ideas that need to be fixed in the first time. So this might get sometimes stressful. Okay, say, come on, man. I mean, he had it. Why didn't he mention these in the first time? But it happens. Okay, you don't have to be worried. Then it might even happen a third round. Then you say, oh, why is this? This reviewer sent me the first 4 things to fix. I did my best. He's sent me a second round with 5 other issues to fix. I fixed those 2, and now he's coming with new ideas. I mean, so This can happen. It doesn't happen very often, but now, so these rounds of reviews, this is what they are. Okay, so it goes back and forth a few times through the reviews. They say, okay, fix this, bring it back, fix this, bring it back. And this research has found out that papers that have several rounds of come and go, they receive a lot of citations. It's interesting. It's a good indication. It also reminds to many people that if you get a lot of rounds of reviews back and forth before being accepted, there is a possibility that the paper will get better and people will cite it more. It could also be, but this is an allegation, we don't know always for sure. It could also be that the reviewer that asked from you a lot of things to fix, or a lot of corrections, let's say a lot of corrections, it could be that this reviewer, most of the time or almost always, you don't know who these people are. Maybe they are respected professionals in the field of study. So maybe they are right, okay? Not maybe, of course. The moment he's a reviewer, you have to do what they say, okay? So even if they are not right, sometimes you have to respond in a nice way. And so you cannot, it's not good to fight. So they tell you, can you fix this? Or they'll say, this is wrong. It might not be wrong. Maybe the reviewer did not understand. Maybe you understand it better than the reviewer. But you should use a good language, okay? You should never fight. You should never say, oh, you are wrong. I know this, I did it this way. You've never seen this paper. Look at this paper. This paper does the same thing I do. How do you say this to me? This is wrong. Don't do this. You should always say, I thank you, dear reviewer. I thank you for the careful observation. This is true. We'll fix it. Or even if the reviewer is wrong, you might say that, I thank you for the very good observation. Your thoughts or your ideas are very useful for me. So this is how you could approach. And this is one method. It depends also on your choice of words. And you can always discuss with your supervisor when you submit such a review, okay? Or you discuss it with your colleagues or with your friends or the other co-authors that if you have a paper with a few authors, you get together and say, look, he's asking this, how should we ask? But it is always nice to be kind whenever you submit the corrections for a specific publication. So using a good language, not always in everyday life, but in academia, it is very important, and people pay a lot of attention to this. So please try to be kind. Most of the reviewers, they are also kind in the way that they might ask for some corrections. They might use some verbs which are not the kindest verbs, folie, which might have connotations of very harsh criticism. It could be. But you have to show your maturity. You have to do that, okay? It's always good to do it, okay? To be patient, okay? To be patient and regarding these corrections or these rounds of reviews, and and apparently these people that they might approach in the kindest way possible for a correction that has to be done, or you might have reviewers that approach in the worst. Or in the harshest way possible, with asking for corrections. This could also happen. If you are the reviewer one day, it's also suggested to use kind words, because this is colleagues that you are dealing with. You are not dealing, if you are a reviewer of someone who is publishing something, it's not that you are discussing now about with some people that you'll never see in your life again. Okay, maybe you'll see them in a conference, you're going to see them in and the issue is that sometimes the reviewer knows you, but you don't know him. Okay, so it's always good to be kind, because if it is blind review, that's fine. Okay, so if the reviewer doesn't know your name, it might be good, but sometimes, most of the time, they know your name. So if you use bad words to a reviewer, where it is less probable than you to know him than him to know you, it's always a good choice to have a good choice of words. Okay, yeah, and. So we came to this topic regarding the issue of the citations, and as we said, and we came to the issues of citation from the aspect that we were discussing with Albert, that when you find a bibliography or when you find a lot of papers, you might go after papers that have citations or that are from journals, also from conferences but if the conference is a well-respected one. Okay, many conferences. There are many conferences. Some are much better than the rest. So it might be really useful to pick up the best conferences possible, to use them as references, because they also deserve it if they are high quality conferences or good quality conferences. So yes, we have here we have Frankie, we have Amadeo. Amadeo, I believe I sent you an email about the topic that you have to focus on.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, and I would strongly suggest you start looking at the first step, which you should complete at least 90%, even including the first draft, is preparing a good list of bibliographic references, so the best papers that might focus on your topic. Again, if they are journals, it's good. If they are good conferences, go with those. And also conferences of average quality, they could also be of choice.
Yes, okay, Professor.
Frankie, I just want to, so I'm just randomly asking here. We have also, how are you doing with the bibliographic section?
Sorry, Professor?
Have you determined what references you are going to use in your project?
I sent you 2 emails. I didn't get any answer about my paper.
Wait a second. Let me check. I think I've emailed you. Let me see. It could be. You mean regarding the topic?
Yes, Professor.
Oh, I have it in my notes. I think I've written here diffuser cam reconstruction algorithm. Oh, it's strange. I thought I had shared this with you. Wait a second. Okay, Frank, I'll send an email again, but I always thought that, because I had some of you that I had not sent the topic, but for you, it has been here for some time. But I'm going to email you again, Frank, okay?
Okay, thank you, Professor.
But please, I have to do it.
Professor?
Yes, Paul.
How many, if the topic is relatively new, how many is the least amount of references? And if the topic is relatively old and has a lot of material about it, how much is the most references you can put on? So I'm asking for the limits, like what's the least and what's the most?
The least is 5, the most is the, let's say,
30 is
the
too
least is
much.
5, the most is 50. But if it is a review paper, you can go to 200. Okay, if it is a very high quality review paper, often we have said in the previous weeks. So consider this one. It's a measure. Okay, let's say. I mean, if the paper, consider also this one, Nuri. Imagine you have written a paper of 4 pages, 4 pages of your paper, and then you have 3 pages of references. This does not look the best way, right? I mean, should not be out of 7 pages, 3 pages of references and 4 pages of paper. It's not the best combination possible, which means it's bad. And so let's say minimum 5. Only Einstein has papers with 0 references. Okay, if Einstein submitted his work, yeah, really, I mean, he has a paper on special relativity. He just in a very bad way, he had no reference. He could have included the reference of of Maxwell's equations, because he said that space is bending, but those equations, they were borrowed from Lorentz work, but he never referenced them. And anyway, and he did it at least once, I believe, at least once, yes, but he could have done it a couple of times also. And so if he submits something today, his work will not be published, even the work of Einstein. So there should be a reference in there. But if it is a new work, Nuri, consider 5, maximum 50. And also, if you have, again, you can always compare with the number of pages you are producing. Sometimes you are, but if you're writing a review paper, and if the review paper is a good quality one, I believe like even 200 is fine. So you could, actually 200, sorry, it's too much. Well, I mean, 100 references, it's okay. 100, 150 is fine. But that means that you have to read a lot.
I think when we're talking about the references, we should also consider like the max amount of paper, like material you could write on. So I'm saying for the first draft, like 4 or 5 papers, is it okay?
Yes.
4 or 5 pages.
No, it's not okay. Because bibliography, Nuri. So the first draft, what we're saying is that in the first draft, it is not that you are going to write 50% of the bibliographic work is done, 50% of literature review, 50% of the experimental part, 50% of conclusion.
Yeah, I understand. But if you're gonna put like 25, 30 references, that's like 1.5 pages, 1 page.
Oh, but this is the first draft of something that you are going to complete it later. So even in the first draft,
Yeah.
you can include 20, 30, or 40 references, because you have to identify, I mean, it's good to identify the most relevant papers as soon as possible, okay? So it's not good to go, you write your paper, and then you start bibliography after you have written your paper, and then you notice that these papers have already done what you have done, okay? Which means that your paper will not be published, and you wasted time because it's already published, or you have nothing new, or you have used the technique that you think you are the first one to use, and then you find out that there is another or few other people that have published 4 or 5 papers with the same technique, same everything, and you didn't know, and then you have to throw everything away. So this is the essence of trying to identify, and you have to search, of course, you search on Google Scholar, specific keywords, or authors that have published a few papers on a specific topic. Go after the publications of these respected authors that probably they might have also published something that you think it's new. If it is the same topic, maybe they have done something about it, okay? So this is why it is important to have the bibliographic list, or the list of references at an early stage. So you have to be ready, because you might work 2 years on a work, okay? And it's not good to figure out after 2 years, or sometimes if you are doing a PhD and you are working three years on some work, and then you find out you have nothing new. It's not the best possible situation to be in. But so I believe you understood me, right, Nuri?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, and Nuri, if I can ask you, actually, your topic, I think we recently decided on it. But
yeah, about that, could you, like, the general sense that I got when we talked was like microprocessors, chips that can program hardware, and more specifically was the program that we talked about.
yes.
Should we get more specific, or should we keep it that like wide
No,
open?
with your
topic?
project, of course, we will have to get more specific for sure, because if you're assuming that you're going to use some of the hardware in our lab, of course we'll get more specific, but we have to figure out together, and we can discuss it after class regarding the. So one thing that you can work on, that you express the desire to use LabVIEW or MyDuck data acquisition cards. One thing that we could suggest is to use these microprocessors for analysis of signals from impedance measurement. Okay, so there are some measurements. Impedance measurement is something which has the units of ohm. Okay, it's like the unit of resistance, and to construct your own circuit, which has your own controller, but which is also portable. So what is your good thing that you are going to include, Nuri, is that you are going to make it portable, not a commercial product. You can always go and buy a potentiometer or another product which is commercial, which is huge, which is large, but we'll try to make them portable. Okay. So for the moment, you might start and read regarding how we can construct. I'm gonna write it down. So impedance measurement, but you can take note here. Yeah. Impedance measurement. Yeah. Chronoamperometry. It's a keyword which you can find, but in principle is just a circuit which has a control unit which measures very low intensity of currents. You can consider anything.
What was the name again?
Chronoamperometry. I'm gonna write it here in the comment section. Chrono. Amperometry, impedance measurement, etc. Another comment which I can write here is how to use wrote a couple of comments there, but we can discuss later again after the class. Then we have Stefanos. Stefanos, I think I recently sent you the topic, I believe.
Yeah, Professor, you sent me something about
Oh,
the.
Let me see what the topic was, because I don't remember exactly what I wrote. Okay, it was about microscopy and point of care microscopy, right?
Yeah, some biomedical stuff.
Yes. I'm going to include some more references regarding this. Next, I want to ask Thea. Thea, anything new regarding the bibliography? I missed my. Wait a second. I missed. Sorry, I have a problem with my computer. Okay. No. Më dëgjoni? Mund të konfirmoj dikush apo?
Po, profesor.
Enjoy.
Okay, po s'posh.
Professor,
I don't see my Google Chrome something. Okay, my PC is frozen, but I can access through the chat session. It's fine. Okay, Theo, but so I can see, I can follow here. So Theo, është interesant që më dëgjoni. I don't see my anyway. I don't see my Chrome browser. What is this? Hold to quit.
Nuk ti gjë, profesor.
Okay, faleminderit o Frankie said. Okay, when I reconnected, apparently the microphone was off. Good. Let's start again. So we just wanted to remind all of us regarding the importance of bibliography, so you can focus a little more on that, trying to prepare it. And also, I mean, we also say this is the research methods class. This is the first year in Master of Science study program, and it could be that you might miss some paper which is published. Okay, but we are asking this because this is not exactly your topic that you are going to do for your Master of Science thesis. Okay, I'm sure about that, but we are trying to remind you regarding this important aspect of how what should be done first. Okay, so this is first, so please do it. Okay, that's why we are saying it, because you might say that, okay, professor, there was a paper that I've never seen it. It's fine. This is a research. This is only research methods class, but try to do the best that you can. Because we'd like to have this to become a habit, and having positive habits is always good. Now, okay, so until now, we discussed a few important aspects regarding the work that we submit, the work that we do, but I could add also some And during the discussion we had so far, we also discussed a little bit of how to deal with different forms of criticism that you might receive one time or another. Now, whenever you work something, when you work on a specific topic, you're going to deal or to communicate your work into several stages. The first stage could be you are taking a class, you are writing a reviews paper, or you are presenting your work. This is the first stage where you present your work, and you might get criticism right away, or you might get support. You might also get very good reviews, and you might also get reviews that are going to help you. You are going to get comments that will help you understand what you really did. If you have very good listeners and that want to help you, so in principle, it's good to present your work, okay? And you wish you have good people that listen to you, and they are specialists in a specific topic that you have worked on, and there is a wide range or wide spectrum of what you might receive in that after this presentation. Okay, it is always good. It's also, we always hope that from this presentation that you hold or you present, to receive something of a common sense, or something which is reasonable, something which is not offensive. Okay, that's the last thing we'd like to have. But sometimes even the worst part of the spectrum, it could happen. What is suggested in this case, there is only one thing: be patient. Okay, don't worry too much. When I say don't worry too much, well, you might have to worry if you did something wrong, but things can be fixed. But you might. It's always a good choice to hang around with people that exert patience. Be patient when they are patient when this type of situations arise. Now, there are two aspects of this one that I'm saying, is that it depends where you are having the presentation. Okay, so if one option, so the two opposite sides of the spectrum is, one is that you are presenting, and in front of you is the best person in the field in the world. Okay, so you are here and the listeners are here. Sometimes the best people in the world in a specific topic, they might be very harsh. I was in one presentation, and some professor from a very good university was presenting, and in the audience there was Steven Weinberg. Steven Weinberg is a Nobel Prize winner in physics, and he was listening, and he's like, I don't know, he's like 90 years old, and he's very active in research. He's publishing papers by himself. Okay, he's very good. He's doing simulations, and he's really a person to be respected. I would strongly suggest for you to go and to read his website, and he's writing books from scratch. Okay, now you have this 90-year-old who is very energetic, and he's very productive in research. He's not sitting around, and he stood up and said, "You have done nothing." I mean, imagine now, this is a very sad situation. But this doesn't happen very often. You don't always have in your audience a Nobel Prize winner criticizing you on some topic, okay? But this is one side of the spectrum. So we have a very good listener who is a very good specialist, and you might get this type of criticism. This is it cannot get any better than it cannot get any worse than this. But it does happen. The other spectrum is that you are comparable with the listeners, okay? Then you might receive some comments which could become useful, okay, and this is always a good thing. Another thing that could happen is that you have worked on a specific topic that the listeners don't know much about it, okay? They might not even be too much aware of the terminology. This can also happen. Then you might get some criticism. You notice that the criticism is wrong, but you might try to tell them that they are not exactly right, but don't push too much for it, okay? So let's say Nuri is explaining something. I criticize him. I am wrong. Nuri understands that I don't know the topic. And the first option is he might fight back me. He might say, oh, you know nothing. I know this one. You have no idea about this topic. I know much better than this. Nuri can do this, okay? This is not good. Even if I'm completely wrong, the best thing could be that you tell it once and you leave it, okay? The people that know the best of the topic, they will respect you. You should know this one. You wish there is someone who understands the topic and understands that you know it better and you didn't fight back, okay? You wish. You don't always find those, but you do it for yourself. So even if the listener And there is also, let's assume Nuri is right. Let's assume Nuri thinks he knows his topic very well. Let's say 95% of the time it will happen. And he could fight back me and say, no, you are wrong. I've worked on this 2 years. I'm the best person who knows this one. You should not say this to me, etc. Don't do this. Okay, Nuri? So it's always good to be patient. You put your argument forward and don't fight back, because it's not, you should remove this fighting back attitude. The second option is that you think you know, and you believe that the criticism you received is completely wrong, but maybe they might be right. Okay, maybe they're right. So there's also this option. Maybe the criticism is correct. In this case, so for assuming that this could also happen, this is why the first choice, it would be a good choice, which was be patient and don't fight back with arguments back and forth. Okay. And regarding this, let me think for a moment. It would also be that, for example, I was in a conference and there were two papers. One was arguing that they have done a study using short wavelength analysis. They have done spectroscopy analysis using short wavelength. Okay. There was another paper in the same session. It had done spectroscopic analysis using long wavelength. Okay. Okay, that's good. They look like they are not related with respect to each other. One is short wavelength, one is long. One was kilohertz, one was megahertz. That's good. One could be kilohertz, one could be megahertz. That was not the case. They had the same frequency. They had the same wavelength. So they were observing the same spectroscopic range. So they were in the same domain. But one of them was saying long wavelength, one was saying short wavelength. Okay. So what was the problem? The problem was that one was analyzing molecules. The other one was studying macromolecules. One was studying atoms. So if you are studying atoms, what is a short wavelength here is a long wavelength on this other side. So even this could happen. So if you fight back and say, okay, you have the same frequency with me, but you call it long, no, it's short. Now, if you fight like this, you should also, it could also be another argument, as simple as this, that you are studying different things with the same frequency, but it's called long in this domain, it's called short in this domain. Fine, keep it quiet. Ask a different question. Okay. So in principle, the questions. Also, there is also an art about asking questions, but art of asking questions, I'm going to say a few words after this. And then there is so we said that it could be that the listeners are very good, they are Nobel Prize winners, and you are here. They are the same level. Sometimes the criticism is correct, sometimes the criticism is wrong. Both of these cases, it's good to be approached with the same attitude. Then there is the other case where the presenter is very good and the listener does not know much about the topic, but he thinks he knows. Okay, this also does happen. Even in this case, I've been in situations where the presenter was very good, the listeners had no idea how good he was, and the listeners put forward some criticism which was not correct, and it was put in a very harsh way, which was not correct square also, which was relatively bad, and it was a bad thing because it becomes a bad example to the other listeners. But this could also happen. The best people, this person who is a very specialist in her area, the best solution also in here is to be patient. Okay, you don't have to worry too much. If there is anyone who thinks that know better than you, don't worry. Most probably in the same room there could be someone who knows as much as you know, and will still respect you because you were patient. Okay, you have to do quality work, and fighting back, you don't have time to do that. It might be that once in your lifetime you might have time to deal with people, okay? But people that do quality work generally don't have time to run after criticism, okay? You're always going to find your colleagues that know how good you are or whether you were right or wrong, okay? So regarding the criticism that you might receive in a presentation, these are the widest possible domains of criticism you might receive. Sometimes you might even receive some very useful suggestions that you never thought about those, and you should try them as you go home right away. And you should thank the listeners, especially when they suggest to you a very smart, a very intuitive, a very good thing that you should do, or you could have done, or you would do, or maybe you are thinking that you are going to do it in the future work, etc. It's always good to say, but if it's true, to say that, okay, thank you for your suggestion. It is listed in our future work. it is in slide 75, etc. Okay, it's good to say this, but you should always thank the listeners for doing this. If you never included this in your future work, if you had no idea that you could do that, it's really you should thank them. And even if this happens, you thank them the moment that everybody is listening. It's also good to thank them after you move out, after the presentation is over, the people have gone away. It's good to go and communicate with them, because it's really a good attitude to do this. Now, this was the criticism that one might receive in verbally when you are presenting something. Another type of criticism, or it could be something which is in written form, but this in written form, it is mostly related when you submit something for publication, and it is evaluated for peer review. Actually, unintentionally, we discussed some aspects of this during like a half an hour ago, when we were discussing about the citations and the number of citations being higher for publications that have had more back and forth rounds with asking for corrections again and again. So when we discussed that, we said that whatever the reviewer might, so this is the type of review that you get it in written form during the process of your work being reviewed. It is always good. So first of all, it is a higher possibility that the reviewer knows you, and this is almost zero possibility that you would know who the reviewer is. Since you don't know them, always be kind, okay? And if you are not kind, the person who knows you, and another day he'll make your life harder, okay? It's not good to go this way. So whenever you receive some written criticism about your work, you always should thank them about the comment. If they are partially wrong, you can put forward some arguments arguing that what you have done is really true, it's really right, so it's not really criticizable, does not deserve a very strong correction, probably. It's good to put this in a kind word, because every journal, they don't only have reviewers, but they have also editors. The editors can have a look at your answer. They always wish for your answer to be an educated one. And if they notice that you were right and the reviewer was not 100% correct, they might still vote in your favor, and the reviewing process might go in your way. Because sometimes the reviewer they say, you have done this wrong, do it this way. But that's wrong, okay? But they might say this. They might ask you, you have done it this way, but do it this way, which is sometimes very wrong, and you cannot do anything about it, but you have then to discuss it with the editor. Or the best thing that could do, you just take the paper back, you submit it to another journal, okay? But there is always the essence that it's always good to use kind language. And yeah, so this was the type of review that you might get in written form. This is the peer review criticism. And the peer review criticism, it's always good to get feedback about your work. And those reviewers spending time to read your work, reading it carefully, and asking for corrections, you should always thank those, because most of the time they don't get paid. Let's say 99% of the time they don't get paid for reviewing a paper. Okay. Then what we can say, so this is criticism in presentation, criticism in written form. There are also some types of criticism which could be between each other. So you are working in a lab and you receive some criticism from one of your friends in your class. Okay, you are a PhD student and there is another PhD student, and you start criticizing each other regarding the work you have done. It could be. It's always good to approach to this criticism with a good attitude, because anyone who is working in a research institution, the attitude, the behavior, this should be a first. Okay, unless you are like the brightest person in the world, it could happen. You can count few people around that might have very harsh attitude against many people. Maybe they have a couple of Nobel Prizes. Maybe they deserve. They don't have enough patience to deal with everyone. That's their attitude. It would happen. But if this is not the case, it's always good to approach with even if you are in the stage to criticize someone. It's always good to put your words in a well-formulated way. Okay. Now, this is criticism between colleagues. There could be also criticism from your supervisor. This is also something serious that has to be many people have to consider this one, and it depends what the nature of criticism is, of course, and I most probably can also guess what type of criticism something. Now, what could be one type of criticism? The worst type of criticism could be, for example, maybe you are not doing all the work that you are supposed to do. This is the worst type of criticism. It's not criticism like, oh, you couldn't do it. You had a task, you could not do it. No, it's not a criticism at all. People work on projects for years and they don't achieve, if it is difficult, of course. They work for years, maybe they don't achieve very good results because it's a challenging problem. It's fine. As long as you are working, people trust you, they respect you for your work. But nobody's going to say why you did not get a very good result. But sometimes some part of the work could be relatively trivial, and this requires really some work hours put dedicated to something. Okay. Now this is a very so we're talking about criticism from the supervisor. Okay. It's good not to have it. It's good to discuss carefully with the supervisor because it's a unique relationship when you are working, and this is many people respect a lot their supervisors. They never forget them, especially most of the time, not because of the things that they have learned, but often it's also because of the attitude in dealing with criticism and also in dealing with how they try to reflect their knowledge onto you, or to teach what they know, or to teach you techniques of how you can learn things. So it's always good. It's a huge luck if somebody receives or meets with a supervisor that has a good attitude, and it's also very, very skilled, technically very skilled has very good knowledge on the specific topic. And once this happens, if this is combined with some good work and respectful work from the student, this always brings very good outcomes. Okay, so these are some major points that I wanted to discuss today. Do you have any question from what we discussed so far? Any question? Okay. Okay, if you have no questions, then we can stop for today here, but I'll be around for more questions that you could have.